to Early Rush. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz, and we begin this morning with some breaking news. Russia invading Ukraine. It is the moment much of the world has been hoping to avoid. President Biden releasing a statement overnight saying, quote, President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. Videos showing Russian tanks rolling into northern Ukraine from neighboring country Belarus, a close ally of Russia. It is an area where the Russian military has been gathering, in addition to the troops already in place along the border with Ukraine.
The People's Republic of Lugansk and Donetsk need our help. They've asked for our help with this regard. From the 7th Charter, from the UN Charter of the Territorial Assembly, an agreement on friendship and assistance with the people of Donetsk, the people of Lugansk. A decision has been made of a special military operation. Its aim is to defend the people who for 8 years have put up with terrible humiliation.
Our Moscow correspondent Julia Chapman joining us now live from Russia. Julia, what can you tell us about Putin's decision to move forward with this military operation?
It's an extraordinary development. It came in the early hours of this morning, Russian Western time, when President Putin gave an address to the nation that appeared to be pre-recorded, broadcast on state media, announcing a special military operation and trying to justify that action by saying he wanted to prevent a genocide in the eastern Ukraine region. But it's already become very clear that these actions are going much further than eastern Ukraine. We have seen attacks on several sites in western Ukraine as well, in Odessa, Mariupol, Kharkiv, and even the capital, Kiev. The Russian Ministry of Defense says that it is only targeting military infrastructure. It says that it is not carrying out strikes on cities, and civilians have nothing to fear. But that appears to not be the case on the ground, with reports that at least one residential building outside of Kiev has been hit. We understand there are at least 40 people who were killed in that attack. So certainly this is a very large-scale operation from the Russian side. We're also hearing, as you mentioned, that some troops have breached the border to Ukraine's north from Belarus, as well as the south from annexed Crimea. So a really large-scale operation, an extraordinary development on this Thursday morning.
And Julie, at this point, we are hearing that there has been loss of life. What more can you tell us?
Yes, that's right. Despite the claim from the Russian government that civilians weren't being targeted, we know that at least 40 people have been killed in attacks so far. That's according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We also understand that at least one Ukrainian serviceman has been killed in fighting the front line between the separatist regions and the Ukrainian military-held parts of the country. Undoubtedly, that is expected to grow, those numbers. We are seeing now a pretty big confrontation looming, with President Vladimir Putin saying in his address this morning that it was inevitable that the Ukrainian and Russian forces will end up clashing at some point. So undoubtedly a very scary position right now for everybody in Ukraine. Here on the Russian side of the border, we're around 150 miles from where the fighting is already ongoing in eastern Ukraine. The situation remains pretty calm here in Rostov-on-Don, but undoubtedly there is a sense of unease as Russians don't know exactly what's going to happen next.
And this is not just a war that is taking place on the ground, in the air, but it's also happening online, with Russia launching cyber attacks against Ukraine. Can you give us an update there?
Yes, we understand from the Ukrainian government yesterday that several government sites were taken out by what they believe to be Russian cyber hackers. Of course, we know in the past that a number of cyber attacks have been attributed to Russia that have been carried out in Ukraine. And analysts expect this to be part of the operation from the Russian side, so-called hybrid warfare, not just using forces, but also using cyber capabilities in an effort to try to destabilize the country of Ukraine, make it difficult for its military to communicate, to coordinate, and that will make things much harder for on-the-ground fighting, as well as any airstrikes that forces are trying to hit back at Russian positions from. So certainly that is expected to be part of the playbook, and we're already seeing that unfolding according to the Ukrainians.
And tensions have been escalating, obviously, for a number of days. Bring us up to speed for those who haven't been following as closely. What is Putin's endgame here?
It is really difficult to guess. Every day brings new developments. We heard on Monday evening him give this remarkable address to the Russian people, trying to undermine the legitimacy not just of the authorities in Kiev, but of the entire existence of the state of Ukraine, saying it had been created by Russia, effectively trying to suggest that it doesn't have a right to exist. So at the end of that speech, he announced that Russia was recognizing the independence of the Luhansk and Donetsk separatist regions, but it was pretty clear already then from his tone that that wasn't going to be the end of it. And then this morning, in another very lengthy speech where he talked about all of the allegations that Russia has against the West of trying to undermine Russian stability, trying to support Ukraine in an effort to counter Russia, he then went on at length about what is now going to be unfolding. It looks quite clear, although he did say that he didn't want to occupy Ukraine, that is an inevitability now. That is definitely on the table, with forces now attacking positions all around the country, crossing into borders both north and south, not just from the east. So undoubtedly, this is looking like a pretty full-scale invasion, the extent of which we're only going to find out in the days and weeks to come.
All right, Julia Chapman reporting live for us this morning from Russia. We're going to continue to check in with you throughout the morning. We appreciate it. Thank you.